Well, I guess we're not going to do a countdown. Uh, I'm Isaac Anderson. Welcome to All Caps. I'm joined by the one and only Rod GILLEY. Rod, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing really well. Yeah.
Now,
How are
you're
you?
in England right now, correct?
No, actually, I'm in the U.S. I'm in Kentucky.
Oh, I for some reason I thought you were in England.
It must be my British accent.
It must be the British accent. Yes, yes. Why did I think you were in England? I had it written down and everything. I was trying to get the time zones right. I don't know. I am crazy sometimes. So, Rod GILLEY, for those who don't know, he has an indie publishing house. What is your publishing house called?
RDG Books Press.
RDG Books Press. And what do you look for in a book at RDGD Press?
You know, it's so easy for me to say, but I've had a few people say that's a tongue twister. I hope that makes it memorable. Well,
Oh
what I
yes.
look for in a submission, it depends if it's a short story submission or a novella, novel. There's different things we look for in those. In a short story, it's really important that the author understands every word counts. A short
Right.
story at my press is typically around 5,000 words, give or take two or 3,000. And you really don't have the room to world build like you would in a novel. And you really got to grab the reader's attention and hold it. So every word counts in a short story. And when we review a novella or a novel, we get two things from the author. We'll get a general overview, not a formal synopsis, just like you're talking to a friend and you're telling him what your book's about. You know,
Right.
that's all we really need. And then we get the first 20 pages of the actual manuscript. What we look for there is first in the overview, simply is it an interesting story? Does it grab our attention? Does it sound too much like just rehashing another story? You know, I recently reviewed a story that was basically Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie. It was basically that with a female vampire.
Right.
Didn't quite work. Didn't quite work. You know, and so it's got to be a reasonably original idea or the author's own take on a given story. You know. Um,
Gotcha.
and then, as far as the actual first 20 pages, I like to see that an author made the effort, that, he self edited a little bit, got some beta readers, kind of got the story reasonably clean. It don't have to be perfect. We've got editors. Uh, but I like to see that the author made the effort and somewhere in them first 20 pages, it doesn't have to be the hook that everybody talks about, but somewhere in them first 20 pages, you've got to intrigue the reader. You've got to get the reader
Yeah.
to say, "Ooh, I want to turn the page and see what else happens." If you fail to do that, they may not turn the page and they're already gone, you know? So those are the surface level things we look for. Um, a very big deal to me. It's a personal preference. It's my company's policy. It's pretty well known by now, I would think. I don't dig AI, period.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm afraid I do have to look for that. And if there's an overwhelming sense that it's AI written, I'll very likely reject it. I'll talk to the author, but a lot of our business is trust. Between the
Hmm.
publisher, the editor, there's a whole lot of trust involved. I would hope that all the authors I've worked with have been honest. Those that I have rejected for AI, it was blatant and clear. Um, I don't dig AI. Don't even bother sending it to me because I will reject it if I catch it.
How often do you
Surely
get AI submissions? Is it becoming common?
it's relatively common. I would say, I mean, I get a lot of submissions. So I would say maybe 2 out of 10 are blatantly AI.
Oh
Like
wow.
there's no way around it. This is AI. And I don't use an AI program to detect AI. That's kind of silly. Um,
Hmm.
Basically, to be honest, and the best editors I have just have very good instincts and a very good understanding about writing. That writing is an emotional thing. The author is putting his heart and soul into the story. And the goal is to grab the emotions of the reader. So one of the best tells of AI is not the use of an M dash. One of the best tells of AI is when it's pretty much heartless. It's sort of like
Right.
AI art. Uh, AI art, if you look at it, it's completely non-emotional. There's nothing there. It's a blank stare staring at you, and that's the way the
Yeah.
writing is. Uh, Now AI is getting better every day. All of us in the writing world, we've got to be real to the human beings, or we lose to the AI, because AI skills, the programming is getting better every day. It's like any other technology. It's very fast. It grows. It learns very fast. You know. And while today I can confidently spot AI, within 2 years, I may not have so much confidence. We'll see.
It might be as soon
But
as like
anyway,
6
I was
months
too
even.
many words, but yeah. But yeah, on a short story, we want the writer to get right to it. And in a novel or novella, grab the reader within the first 20 pages. It doesn't have to be the main hook, but don't let them fall asleep on page 19, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think every reputable, legit publishing house is watching out for AI. A
Hmm.
lot of them are getting a little ridiculous. I've heard some crazy rumors what publishing houses are demanding of authors. That's nuts. You know, I don't think you sue the author because he used AI. Bullshit. Hey, publishing house, be responsible. Read the story. Some of the publishing houses don't even read it before they publish it. You
Right.
know, do your job and you'll likely weed out the AI pretty well. You know, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess that's a very long answer to your question. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's perfect. Um, what inspired you to start this? Like what drew you to indie publishing?
Well, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'm going to try to be more concise. About 6 years ago, seven maybe, I started to write more seriously. Like most writers, I dabbled in it all through my life, but I really took it serious around that time. And like most every new writer, I'm no different than the rest. You don't really know anything. You're very vulnerable. And when you go online to any social media and you seek out help and you look for places to put your story, you read contracts, pretty much everything involved. At the beginning, there's 5% crooks and dumbasses, crooks being the predominant word. Uh, and like my very first novel is sitting on a shelf. It's 125 scenes in a pillowcase shook to hell. It's a mess. And that's because, as a brand new writer, I had no idea what I was doing and I listened to too many people, you know?
Yeah.
So experience is a wonderful thing. We learn as we go. So with that experience and realizing there were not a lot of really good options out there, I've had an entrepreneurial mindset my whole life. If it ain't out there, if I can't find it, if it apparently doesn't exist, I'll create it. And
Right.
I love talking with other writers, and I really respect and enjoy their company. And I would just start that, you know what, I had such a hard way getting into it from the beginning. I'm sure a lot of writers do. I'm going to make the path a lot easier. So my press is very unique in that all the presses I know anything about, which is not 100 million of them, but all the presses I know anything about, I took what was good from what they were doing, incorporated it into my business, took what was bad in what they were doing, and improved upon it, some of my own instincts, and I created what I think is a very unique publishing house. Uh, and the authors have a real, legit, serious opportunity to start their career or enhance their career with RDG Books Press.
What are those unique things that you offer?
Well, there's quite a few things. One is we don't charge our authors anything. That's important. We're not a vanity press. We
Hmm.
provide everything. We charge nothing. That's what a publishing house should do. Another thing that's very unique is we don't do advances. An advance is nothing more than a loan. I give you advance for, say, I don't know, $1,000 advance. You get in royalties about $2 a pop. Your royalties are going toward that advance until you pay back that loan, if you ever reach the amount of your advance. I decided that that's not the way I do business. What I'll do is I'll pay you outright, right off the top, cash money in your pocket. That's your payment. And you'll draw
Right.
royalties on that.
Yeah.
Another really worthwhile thing in my press, a lot of my work experience is as an accountant. My major in college, of course, went into that field. And not a whole lot of people really understand the difference between gross and net. Typically, and I can't speak for every press that exists, but typically, when you get a royalty, it's on the net income, if there's any net income to be shared. At RDG Books Press, your royalty is gross. These are paid after the press covers their editors, their cover designers, illustrators, production team, their administrative staff, sometimes their vacations and their new car. Maybe there's something left that the author gets 90% of. 90% of nothing is really enticing. We don't play
Mm.
that. The author is the most vital part of my publishing house. Without authors, I don't have a publishing house. So I take care of my authors. They get paid first, above all else, right off the top. And to this day, I think, let's see, 24, 25. I'm in my second year of operation, right around there, 2.5 years. And not one penny has been late or missed. Everybody gets paid properly, especially my office. Nobody gets screwed over.
Oh,
That's a matter of integrity, something I seriously. Again, maybe that's unique. Maybe it isn't. I'll let you decide. But that's some of the things that really set you apart with RDG Books Press versus others. Um, Another thing I think is worth mentioning is when we take a project, when we do the acquisition read, we decide to accept it, and the author comes on board and we get under contract, you will work hard as an author. We do a full developmental line and copy edit, and we collaborate completely with the author. We both, the editor and the author, work very hard. We don't skim over anything. We don't put out garbage. We make sure as much as possible. There's no real such thing as perfect, but we get as close as we possibly can. You know,
right.
uh, so we'll do a developmental edit. Sometimes that's a little, sometimes that's a lot. I had an author I worked with 4 or 5 years ago that she literally rewrote 13 chapters based on my developmental suggestions. And she has one of the best fantasy stories out there. She's got a fantastic one. Now, that wasn't through my publishing house. At the time, I was a full service editor, period.
Hmm.
I later started my publishing house, but very seriously. I've heard too many times here recently, especially, where an author submits their story and it goes to press within 2 weeks. It's out on the Amazon wall in 2 weeks. They didn't even read that story, let alone edit it, you
Yeah.
know? So what they do is they kill their own reputation and they hurt the reputation of the author, just to go after that quick buck. If you want a quick buck, go to a casino or go to work at McDonald's because a publishing house is not a quick buck.
Yeah. How many people on your team? You used to be an editor. Do you still edit as part of your duties at the publishing house, or do you have a team of editors with you?
I'm definitely still an editor. RDG Books Full Service Editing is still a division of the company, and I still edit for people who want to self publish or want to publish elsewhere. So I have projects going on right now that are in that division of the company. And then for the press, I'm the senior editor, which in my company means that I do the developmental editing or I do all the editing, depending on whether or not I can find help. Uh,
Hmm.
but I do all the developmental editing. And then I do try to get editors to do the line editing. Uh, it's a little easier, to be honest. Line editing is not terribly hard. Word, track changes, basic understanding of English. It's not rocket science, but it's a good place to start if you want to get into being an editor. You know,
Right.
and truthfully, that's one of the biggest challenges. If I can go off just a little bit, I want to say to the
Yeah.
audience, if you're thinking about opening your own publishing house, it's extremely helpful if you're quite wealthy to begin with. Got a lot of dough. You're rolling in money and you ain't worried about it. You got a good chance of starting your publishing house. If you're like me, this is my fifth business, and you tend to start a business with very little money and a whole lot of heart, plan on working your tail off. There are so many positions in a publishing house, each one incredibly important. And for every $1 that you don't have to hire someone to do it, give yourself at least 10 hours of work you have to do yourself for each $1. You're going to work very, very hard. Right
Yeah.
off the top of my head, you've got to be an administrator, you've got to be an accountant, you've got to be an editor, an acquisition reader, you've got to be able to format, you've got to be able to do the backroom stuff, uh, you've got to be able to tackle marketing. We do a lot for the author, and we got to make sure we can do it. And right now, we at RDG Books Press is about 90% me. That means 15 hours a day, 6 days a week is a typical work week. So if you're wealthy and you can afford to hire people to do all these different positions, you're going to get a hell of a lot easier life running a press. I bring that up because a couple of my friends are thinking about opening a press. They're apparently wealthy, and if they spend their money wisely, they will do very well. Uh,
Right.
you can, as I'm living proof, start out with a very small budget, and you can be successful, but you got to be willing to work really hard. You know.
Right. Yeah. How many books have you published so far through your press?
So far, we have 5 books out. Two of them are short story collections that I wrote myself, and then 2 out of 3 of It's Dark in Their Minds horror anthology. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are out and doing pretty well. Volume 3 is coming soon, and that's a 3 book set. Fantastic anthology, some excellent writers, some amazing stories. That's one of those really happy things when something comes together and it really rocks. It makes it all worthwhile. We also have, I take great pride in this, Mark T. Bates, The Curse of Six, the best selling book we've done so far, a very popular book in both England and the US. Mark is one hell of a writer, and that project came together really nicely, super successful. Maybe not big bucks, but successful in that everyone who reads it has said, wow, that's a pretty good story. You know?
Yeah.
And coming out July 21st, N.B. Clark's fabulous novella, Those Who Breathe the Water. And that is coming out very soon. It's a fantastic story. I can't wait to see how it's received. Yeah, that's it. I didn't even know you had a picture of it. Ooh, cool.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, that work is done by Mariah Southworth. She's the artist that did that cover, and she paints with a brush to do her art. No AI.
Nice.
She literally uses a canvas, and she makes beautiful, fantastic. Mariah Southworth. If you need an artist, you want to find her on Instagram. Uh, uh, she's fantastic, and I love that cover. I think she did a great job. I don't want to spoil it before it comes out, but that cover suits very, very well. It's very connected to the story.
Very cool. Very cool. So what kind of so you've done some anthologies and short stories. Is there a certain genre that you're attracted to publishing? It seems like you from Those Who Breathe Water, you're kind of into the horror space. Are you also in the fantasy or the romance or the YA space? Like what do you look for? Like what kind of books you hungry for?
RDG Books Press publishes horror stories and fantasy. Now, out on the market today, we have the 5 books I mentioned. They're all horror. In the works right now, we've got 3 fantasy novels that we're working on. And because those are 2 genres, I mean, I absolutely love the horror genre. Janelle Example, fantastic stories. Steve Starr, amazing stories. I can't help but love them. But I also love a good fantasy story. If it's well written and there's a really good storyline with strong characters, I can eat it up. I love fantasy. So horror and fantasy are
Mhm.
what we do. Now in 2027 and perhaps 2028, I'm going to create 1 or 2 more imprints that will branch out to other genres. Uh, Not entirely sure which ones they'll be, but among the front runners are sci-fi, crime, and erotic horror. Uh,
Mm.
I've been hearing a lot about that and talking to a couple writers in that genre. And to be honest, it sounds like fun. And if you're going to work as many hours as I do, you got to do stuff that's fun, you know. So that's stuff coming in the future. But right now, it's all about horror and a good fantasy story.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you mentioned it. You began as a writer. How long ago was that? Like when? How old were you when you started writing? Like when did you get that bug?
Well, to be honest, I probably started writing in like middle school, 8th grade. A lot of poetry. I was a lovesick puppy for a couple of girls throughout middle school and high school. So I wrote a lot of poetry. Uh, I'm also an artist myself, so I can sketch, draw, and oil paint just about anything you point at. And so I did all that kind of stuff during my high school years. And I kind of stopped for a long time. I'll try to keep a long story short, but I had about 5 years worth of writing. And back in those days, that was on notebook paper with ink pen. I didn't even have a typewriter. And 5 years of my work got stolen. Poof, it was gone. There wasn't no such thing as a backup system. And all of my work got stolen, and I really got disheartened. I didn't write for a very long time.
Wow.
And pretty late in life, I suppose, 50s, I decided to get back into it and started writing again. And I mentioned my first novel that's on a shelf because we all learn as we go. We all start. Let's be honest. Stephen King didn't know nothing on his first day, you know. And published those 2 short story collections, and the stories have been very well received. Um, for Be a Rainbow, I've been told by a couple people that the cover's not really helping sales. Well, I'm not getting a lot of sales from it. But what's weird is everyone who has read the stories in that book have come back and told me, "Hey, those are great stories." You know, so I don't know what to do with that, but I'm not in it for to become the next Stephen King. I know that's not who I'm going to be. My biggest goal, the thing that motivates me every day to work as many hours as I work, is I am currently 61 years old. I'm hoping I've got 10 or 15 years of good, solid work left in me. My biggest goal is that well beyond my lifetime, RDG Books Press is still helping new authors, indie authors, get work out there, get known, build their careers. I've been rich, I've been poor, I've done a lot of different jobs in my life, but this press, I'm making a difference. And that's what matters to me the most.
Mm.
And I hope my press will outlive me by many, many years. That's my biggest goal.
Right. Yeah. That legacy. So you like the horror, you like the fantasy, you don't like the AI. Are there any other uh like if someone were to give you a pitch, what are the no-goes for you other than the AI and like you receive something, what don't you like?
Well, there's if you're in the genres of horror and fantasy, it's very hard to find something I don't like. Um,
Mm,
I compare my own writing ability to Richard Lehman. If I had to pick a comp for a novel that I wrote, I would probably use one of his as a comp. That I hope I write well. I hope I write in a way that is easy to read. You know, having a college education doesn't mean that you have to write like a PhD where nobody understands 3 out of 5 words, you know. And like Richard Lehman, I'm not afraid to go there. I'll hit topics
hmm
that a lot of people might avoid, you know. So if you're in those two genres, it's very hard to find something I don't like. Uh, I'm
Yeah.
open to just about any storyline, character trait. Uh, I don't have any bias or anything like that. That crap. What do people do? Like, I don't know the other word, but the only word that's coming to mind is like racist crap or homophobia. That's not an issue. I don't care about any of that. When our acquisition readers read a story, they don't get the name of the author. They don't know anything about the author because the story has to stand on its own 2 feet. It's got to be a strong story. I don't personally read a story by anyone that I consider to be a writer friend. If it's a writer friend of mine, it goes to my other acquisition readers and they decide because I don't want that bias that he's my buddy, so I'm going to publish him. I don't want that in my
Right.
company. I try to work in a very legit way, you know. So now, if you go outside of my genre, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a real big fan of romance. The typical Harlequin romance, I can't do it. um, I guess the only other thing I can think of that I literally don't like, and it's mostly because I think it's misplaced in the industry, is these stories that are written with the sole purpose of trying to make the reader get sick, throw up,
Yeah.
you know, really disturb the reader.
Shock value
Uh,
and
you know, I'm a successful writer if I made you throw up. I don't know what they're calling it now, but disgusting writing. You know, a
yeah,
lot of
yeah, yeah.
pus, a lot of you know, intestine, whatever. You know, eating stool. I mean, whatever crap you can come up with. That is somewhere as a subgenre in horror, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. There's nothing scary
Yeah.
about it. That's not horror.
I think
Uh, that needs to be in
Stephen
its own
King
genre
said,
else. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. I just
yeah.
can't believe it.
I lost
I'm
you for a
sorry,
second
Stephen
there.
King said what?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen King one time said, I think in his book on writing, he said if he couldn't scare the reader, he would try to gross them out. And if he could scare you, then he wouldn't try to gross you out. But if he's not quite getting it, then he'll sink so low as to try to gross you out. That's like that's the low hanging fruit. It's
I
easy to
think
gross
if you're going to
somebody
write
out. I
horror,
mean,
yeah, if you're going to write horror, you need to be able to write scary. If you can't
yeah.
write scary, pick another genre. You know, there's all kinds of
The only
genres. Pick something else. You
the the,
know.
on, the only book that really scared me was Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. He's the guy who did the Annihilation Area X stories. They made a movie. They're very dry. They're very dry books. The first one is like there's an alien presence in the Everglades, and they send teams in, and the team when they cross the boundary, they don't remember crossing the boundary. They wake up, it's almost sleepwalking in the Everglades. Oh, they got to figure out why they're there, what they need to do. That's the first book. It was very interesting, very strange. The second book was just the people in the offices sending those teams out and reading reports. So it was even drier than the first book, but it was all just like office horror, but like really subdued, like very subtle. The entire time you're on edge, and not a lot is happening, but I can't explain how he did it, but it was just it was constantly unsettling.
Mhm. Well, I think scary stories that got my attention, of course. I'm a baby boomer, the last year of them. So The Exorcist was a big impact on
Ooh,
me. And I thought there were some really good scary parts in that. And I loved it. And yes, I did get under my sister's bed and shake her bed. And she screamed and ran down the stairs without touching a single step. That did happen. Another good scary scene is Stephen King's Pet Cemetery.
mm,
I really love when they're going up through that forest at night and it's all mushy and squishy and wet and dark and creepy. And there's something just out of eyesight watching them and stalking them as they're walking up through that path. That's real horror. That's really well written. I even got goosebumps reading it. Loved it.
yeah.
And that's some really good scary stuff there. um, there's quite a few stories. One that I really like that's sort of along the lines of what you're talking about. A friend of mine recommended I watch a movie quite some time ago. It was called Triangle. Have you ever seen it?
No, no.
Yeah, Triangle is a fabulous story. A group of people out on this ship out in the ocean, and I don't know. I don't want to ruin it because it's a fantastic story, but it is a psychological horror, but it is absolutely fabulous, gripping, and it's one of those stories like what you were saying. There's not a whole lot that actually happens. It's not Scream. You don't have people running around with a knife going, yeah, stab,
Yeah.
stab, stab. It ain't like that. It's really a freaky, spooky, excellent horror movie. Fantastic. If you get a chance to watch Triangle, check it out. Touch base with me. Let me know what you think because it
Triangle, yeah.
deserves a lot of press. It's a fantastic movie.
Recently, I saw that Backrooms movie that recently came out. That scratched that itch quite a bit.
Mhm.
Um, it went not quite as scary as I would have liked it to be, but the the ideas and the things that happen were so off the wall and strange and unique that I really had a good time. I've never really seen anything quite like it. It's so weird. I like the really weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of what makes horror so much fun is the weird stuff. There's everyday horror, what us human beings can do to each other can be quite frightening. But there's a lot of fun in the frightening world of weird stuff. You know, H.P. Lovecraft did a great job with that. You know,
Yes.
weird things that are out there somewhere. Um, I particularly love The Color Out of Space. Fantastic
Mm.
story by Lovecraft. It should be a textbook in every college of writing. Fantastic atmosphere in that story. You know, but yeah, you're right. Weird stuff can be a lot of fun. You know.
I remember I was writing a short story for an anthology. It was it was a holiday anthology, and everyone was writing Christmas stories for it. Um, I I wanted to write something that was more Hanukkah related.
Mhm.
So I wrote this story that's if you squint, you can see Hanukkah there. But kind of touching back to people writing things that gross you out. There was a certain part of the short story. There was a scene where the characters feel ill, and I was traveling, and had to finish it. I was at the airport, and I was feeling I was sick, sitting in the airport, motion sickness, and I was like, "This is perfect. I can use this." So I wrote maybe 4 paragraphs. It was just awful. I cut out almost all of it. I kept maybe 3 sentences of that whole thing just to get it palatable. But then for the ending, I wanted to do something weird and strange, and I think I succeeded. Everyone who reads the story, I really liked it. That ending, what on earth was that? That I've never seen anything like that before. Like, nice. Okay, good. So
Mhm.
I like to surprise, like to do things weird. My story, The Garden Maze, I have that same goal. It's a very simple premise. Knight and his squire go into a hedge maze and it's cursed and they can't get out. They gotta get out. And it's very, very simple setup. But every chapter I challenged myself, okay, what's the most interesting thing that could happen? And what's something that's a little bit more interesting than that? And that's the direction I would go for each chapter. At least I would try.
Mhm.
And people who read that one, they also say they're surprised. So far, I've had success in surprising people.
Mhm.
It takes a lot though. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra keystrokes to find that exact feeling that you want to get.
Mhm. Well, I believe a real writer isn't afraid to do their work. Uh,
Hmm.
that's just a given. You're going to work hard, and like for a novel, you're going to spend a year, 2 years, 6 years. Met a guy once it took 25 years to publish his first novel. It takes a lot of time and effort to write the story, and then
Yep.
when you get to the end, you type the end, and then you realize you've completed 5% of the work that needs to be done. Yay!
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, if you want to be a writer, be prepared to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, and this includes AI program users, find some other way to make money. You know,
Yeah.
uh, being a ripoff, being a cheap copy in any field. What kind of life ambition is that? Go do something worthwhile. It's like all the scammers on social media, crooks, scammers, whatever you want to call them.
Hmm.
They put so much time and effort into being crooked that if they put that time and effort into something worthwhile, they'd be probably way more successful. You know,
Yeah.
they're willing to do the work; they're just misplacing it.
One time, I used to get a lot of scam text messages. The people like, "Hey, how are you? I met you yesterday." They try to act like your friend, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm bothering you." I like to play with them and like make things up and send them around in circles. One person I talked to quite a while, making them very frustrated. And then I finally I said, "Look, do people actually fall for this? Do you actually make money off of this?" And they're like, "Yes, yes, I do." And they
Mhm.
blocked and left. So apparently it works, at least for some of them. That's what this guy
Oh,
said.
yeah.
He could have been lying. I don't know.
Well, I think the term con man, and history is not my strong suit, but the term con man began around or before 1920. It's been around. It's been around for a while. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if it dates back a lot farther than that. And it's because they play on either the vulnerability of the elderly who let's be honest, I'm heading that way myself. You're just not quite as sharp as you used to be, you know, or even worse, and particularly in the creative arts and for writers, the con man plays on your ambition, your wishes, your dreams come true. He plays
Yeah.
on that. Much like a carnival guy selling the I don't know, the best erogenous, 100 times better than oysters, whatever. But they play on your ambitions and your dreams. And that's why they're successful because people are so hungry that sometimes they fall for stuff. I've fallen for stupid shit before. It stinks, but I'd be a
Yeah.
damn liar if I said I never fell for a scam because I think we all have at least once or twice in our lives. The important thing is to learn from them and do your best not to repeat them and be very, very cautious with any new thing that comes your way. I get emails all the time from book clubs that want to read my book and get me a whole bunch of readers. And, I love the emails that say, "Oh, your stories are so fantastic. I really loved insert story title here. It was
Hmm.
great." I mean, I'm like, you didn't even bother to stick one of the stories in there,
Low effort.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll laugh at it now, but a lot of the writers that I work with, my press caters to new writers. I mean, if Stephen King knocks on my door, I probably won't run him off, but I won't change a single thing in my operating process, even for him, because my main goal is to give writers what I didn't have when I started, to give them a legit opportunity, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of new writers are very, very hungry. And a lot of the writers I've spoken with, have either been approached by or literally conned by so many of these crooked assholes that are out there, you know, and it's a damn shame. So, I try to dispute or whatever the word is, debunk the crap that is said on social media. But, generally speaking, people don't want to hear me anymore, and they want to hear the crooks, So I try not to, overdo it. But I respond when something really bothers me. When I see it hurting fellow writers, I can't
Right.
help but make a comment about it.
Mhm. What
That's another
advice?
thing I'll add to. Another
Go
thing I
ahead.
want to add to owning a publishing house, it is extremely beneficial. It's very right that if you're going to own a publishing house, that you also be a writer, because you
Mm.
can't really understand a writer's life if you're not a writer, if you haven't really experienced what they're going through. So, anybody thinking about opening a press, it's a really good idea to have been or really be a writer. It'll open your eyes to a lot of the things you'll have to do in the publishing house. You know.
Gotcha. What advice do you have for people just starting out? They want to write their first story. What do you tell them?
Well, the people that are beginning as a writer, I would say the best advice I can give them right off the bat is trust yourself, believe in yourself. Don't go and follow every little word of advice you hear on social media. The majority of it is not worthwhile. It's either very well meaning people who really don't know a lot about what they're talking about, or it's outright crooks. So you got to believe in yourself to be a writer. You got to believe you can do it. That's very important. Um, Also, don't stress yourself out with self-imposed deadlines. Ridiculous word count. Don't. I've seen writers going nuts over word count. How many words should be in my paragraph, in my chapter? How many words should be in my story? You're driving yourself crazy with stuff that doesn't matter. If a publisher really wants your work, the word count's not going to stop them, you know? And then, in all honesty, the first thing a good publisher will do when they accept a story is connect you with an editor. And word count can be adjusted during editing. So when
Hmm.
you're writing, don't stress these things that just don't matter. If you're writing fiction in particular, I mean, there's other things you got to do in nonfiction. But if you're writing fiction, and if you're like me, I'm 100% pantser. When I'm typing a paragraph, I don't know what's in the next paragraph. I have no idea. I literally let my characters guide me through the story. And even if I have an ending in mind when I start writing, it oftentimes is a completely different ending created by my characters. So I'm a legitimate 100% pantser, you know.
Gotcha.
And so I say to writers, even those who outline, have fun, because there is so much work involved, both in writing the story and everything that comes after. It's so much work that if you're not loving it, you're going to be miserable. If you're going to write a story, even if you're going to sit down and write your first short story, you should be giggling all the way through it. You should be having a ball. You should be like, ooh, this part's really going to scare people. Or, oh man, this part's really going to make somebody cry. This part's going to make somebody laugh. Isn't it cool? Hey, Bob, check this out. What do you think of it? You should be having a blast as a writer. If you're enjoying it, you've got a long career ahead of you. It doesn't matter what your path is, how many bumps in the road. If you love it, you'll never stop and you'll always enjoy being a writer. So I would say to a new writer, start that novel, start that short story, get into it, dabble in it, see how you feel while you're doing it, how you feel at the end of your writing. If you're writing a little 5,000 word short story, it shouldn't take you very long. And afterwards, how do you feel? And if you're not loving it, if you feel like, okay, how about a story? Or if you're in the process and you're like, oh, this is way too hard, I got to turn on the chat LBD, whatever the hell that shit is. I got to turn that on and let it do it for me. If you feel in that way, you're not a writer. Go do something else. Don't try to force yourself to be a writer. That's one of the biggest pitches in AI. Now, with this, you can be a writer. Bullshit. You're a program user. That's like telling me, a 61-year-old man, hey, buy my program and you can be a ballerina.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. You know, screw that. I'll never be a ballerina. I'll never be a concert pianist, and I'm okay with that. Be happy with who you are. If you're a writer, love it. If you're not a writer, do something you do love. Maybe you love motorcycles and you want to rebuild them, you know? And your greatest joy is seeing that 1960 Harley Davidson roaring down the road and knowing you put it together. Rock on. You know what I mean? Find your happiness, because I went from 35 to 61 in about 2 weeks. Life goes by fast.
Yeah.
Find your happiness and enjoy it. And particularly for a writer, love what you're doing. That's the best advice I can possibly give you.
What is your favorite book?
My favorite
The
book.
favorite one.
That is freaking hard to say. So many pop in my head right off the bat. I'll tell you one that's a little bit obscure. I don't know, maybe it's not so much, but a book that really grabbed me and surprised me was Shirley Jackson's We Have Always Lived in the Castle.
Oh,
I freaking love that story. That is so well written. The characters are so well developed. You really can't help but care about these characters. And the storyline is so creative. It's kind of wacky, and it's wacky good though, not bad in any way. And but yeah, that's a story that has stuck with me ever since I read it. I've got a very nice copy of it on my bookshelf. Another story that I absolutely love. I've got an extremely nice copy of it because it's worthy. Um, the original text of Frankenstein.
oh,
I freaking love it. I freaking love it. And I know it's like, it's a sci-fi, it's a horror, it's been called a lot of different things. And the what makes it beautiful though is the emotion in that story. Uh, there's so much emotion in the original text of Frankenstein. It is so heart wrenching in places. And so it makes you angry in places. It makes you want to cry. It makes you do. I mean, your feelings are just ripped up by the time you read through that story. You go through an immense number of emotions. And then while the writing style's a little outdated, but it's also beautiful. I've never been to the Swiss Alps, but I could visualize them just from reading that story. And I could see, because it was so well written, I could see the Swiss Alps in my mind. And what's really awesome, when I looked it up on the internet, what I saw in my mind was very close to the reality, which I was like, rock and roll, that writer got it done, you know? And, but yeah, Frankenstein is one that really stuck with me. One of my favorite books of all time.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? What's your favorite number one favorite
Oh
book?
man, my number one is a book that no one has ever heard before. It's called The Tale of the Swamp Rat by Carter Crocker. Carter Crocker.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yep, no one's heard of it. Um, in the genre of, like, you got your Redwall stories, animals in the wild, doing people stuff. They're characters. There's no humans. Um, no one did it better than Carter Crocker. In the 90s, he
Mm.
worked for Disney. He wrote a lot of the scripts for the Winnie the Pooh animated series. So he was writing
Oh,
Winnie the Pooh for years and years and years and years. And he's I imagine he sat down like, I'm gonna write something that's a little bit more mature, but still very playful and fun. And also tragic. And he sat down and he wrote a story about, these rats that live in the swamp. And one day a rattlesnake comes in and gobbles up all but one. And this rat's alone. He's got to survive now. And it is written to be read aloud. Everything in that story, there's not a word out of place. It is so poetic, so beautiful, and so easy to read because it is written for younger readers. I read it when I was maybe
uh-huh.
11, and I didn't know a book could do that. It could be that amazing and beautiful, and I was afraid maybe, as an adult it wouldn't age well. So I went back to it a couple years ago. I read it again, and it was even better than I remembered. Um, just amazing, and it's a little tiny book that no one's heard of. No, there's not on any list anywhere. And Carter Crocker, The Tale of the Swamp Rat. There's nothing quite like it.
Is it still in print?
I think so. You can probably get it on Amazon still.
Cool. I might
That's
have to
I
look
mean,
it up. I
oh,
honestly have
it's
never
one of my
heard of
absolute
the author
favorites.
or the story. Yeah,
He wrote
but
one
I'm
other book about basketball, I
really
think. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, Carter Crocker. He worked with Suzanne Collins on Winnie the Pooh. And she went on to do Hunger Games and stuff. So while she was doing the Hunger Games, he wrote his little swamp rat story. Well, do we have time for a little game?
if my little Surface computer can keep up with us. I'm having some technical difficulty. It appears you're freezing once in a while,
Oh,
and that's
okay.
telling me that that little tablet's memory is starting to get maxed out. I'm up for a game. We can
Okay.
certainly give it a go.
Okay.
But if I freeze up real bad because of computer issues,
No problem. I call this the Great Book Pitch Bonanza. So I have last night in a mad
cool.
rush, I came up with some ideas and I made some covers. No AI. I made all the covers myself very quickly. Um, I wanted them to be funny, but some of them sound good. So I don't know. It is what it is. So the first book, and I want you to react to these as a publisher. What advice would you give to this author and this book and this pitch? Like, how would you advise them going forward? So the first book I have is The Spaceship is Broken and We're All Gonna Die. So
I actually
the
love the
summary.
title.
Oh yeah, the some of the titles were too fun. I had to make them stupider. So description I wrote for this one. Ever heard of glamping? It's like camping, but without the tents, bugs, or maniacs. That's what I wanted. Instead, I'm stuck breathing 6-month-old air and trying to fall asleep to the fasten your restraints alarm. I have a drugged up gorilla locked in the pantry, and I can see the little black lights getting closer every day. Oh, and we're all gonna die.
Well, obviously, you've got the bones of a very uh, Mike Moman type of story, a humorous sci-fi.
Very, very
Uh,
moment inspired.
yeah,
Yes.
you've actually got good bones there. You know, uh, probably not for my press. I don't see sci-fi being one of my genres right away, but I won't.
Mhm.
Never say never. Depending on when it's
What do
written
you
and
look
if
for
I've
in,
got
in, in
that
good in
going at
good
that time.
sci-fi?
Sci-fi is a wonderful genre in that it can encompass all the others, all the way back to
Mhm.
Stephen R. Donaldson's The Real Story, one of the great books I ever read. But in a good sci-fi story, you're going to have scary elements. You're going to have some
Yeah.
romance. You're going to have some humor. You're going to have a little bit of everything in a good sci-fi story. That's one of the best things about sci-fi as a genre, is that it can encompass all the others. And
Yeah.
you know, I think I'm not sure how you're going to take it because you're the host of this show, but I'll be honest, I'm not
Oh
an ass
yeah.
kisser, and I'm going to be straight up. I love the title, and I honestly think you got the bones there for a sci-fi comedy sci-fi. It could be a lot of fun. Uh, I would advise the author of that to sit down and play with it some more and see what they can come up with.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Now I don't remember I think the next one is stupid. I hope it's stupid. Let's see. Okay. This one is called Matthew, John, Luke, Mark. Pastor boys, Matthew, John, and Luke, Mark, have been cursed to wander the earth in search of the meaning of life. And after all these years, they've just about given up. But after they hit a boy with their truck, they discover the kid with a concussion might have all the answers.
Hate the title. The title's useless, in my opinion. And the story is sort of a drama. John Travolta did a movie a while back about a real pale boy or something. I might be mixing things up, but it was a drama, and it may catch on. Uh, I don't think you got the bones there.
What advice would you give?
If I was being honest with the author, I'd say definitely scrap the title and rethink your storyline. See if you can come up with something a little more grabbing. My
Okay.
problem with that is if I received that as a submission and I read the first 20 pages, it sounds like I would fall asleep on page 18.
Mm,
And that's not what you want. You know, a lot
okay.
of writers don't think about that. That if a person F's your story early on, it ain't going to matter what's happening later because they're never going to see it. I get
True.
so many writers
Yes.
tell me when I bring something up in developmental editing, they'll say, "Oh, but that appears on page 106." I'm like, "We're on page 30. If a reader shuts the book down, it ain't going to matter what's on page 106, you know." And this book, I'm afraid, at least in my personal opinion, with what I have to look at, I would really recommend the kind of see if they can come up with another angle, something a little more gripping.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, what advice do you have for titling books? What do you look for in a good title?
Well, I look at it this way: when you walk into a bookstore and you're walking down through there, the cover grabs your attention. That's the first thing you're going to see is a cover. Something about that cover draws you over. When you get close enough to read it, the title intrigues the reader. Ooh, like that little sci-fi story a minute ago. What the hell is this about? This sounds neat, you know. Uh, so the title intrigues, and that's what it needs to do. Matthew, John, Luke, Mark. I'm guessing you're quoting or what are they chapters in the Bible? I don't know what that's about, and so and the cover itself is quiet. So I'd walk right by it, but if I did draw over to it, the title would turn me off. And then what a lot of writers don't realize is the back cover blurb is what sells your book. That's what's going to take the reader from that aisle to the cash register. They don't buy on the title. They don't buy on the cover. They buy on what they read on the back of their book. I've done that a gazillion times. I'll go in and do exactly what I just said. Wow, what a cool cover. What's that about? Oh, I love this title. Okay, flip it over. What's it about? And if that blurb is good, I'm headed for the cash register. Now, there is a caveat. If that blurb is good, make sure that it's directly related to the story on the inside.
Yeah.
Some writers mess that up. Their blurb will say this, but the story says that, and the reader feels ripped off. You know, make sure your blurb is based on your story, but also make sure your blurb is really, really, really good. You know, but walking into the bookstore, the title is second place, and in this case, the title would turn me away immediately.
Excellent. Well, I hope you hate the next one too, because giving advice about things you don't like is the best advice. It's much better than saying, "Oh, that's great." I'd much rather hear, "Oh, this is bad because of this, this, and this." So let it
Mm.
rip. So the next one is okay. Teach a man to fish. Homeless and alone, Fred
Mm.
thinks he's finally reached the end of the rope until a strange old man offers to teach him to fish, a gift far stranger than Fred could have possibly imagined.
I think teach a man to fish, and this is just off the top of my head, that'd be a good tagline, but you'd probably need a little bit stronger title.
Okay.
Because teach a man to fish, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the old man in the sea? Are we teaching a young man how to go in a bar and pick up a babe? We don't know what this is really saying. Teach a man to fish. You do have the bones and the little storyline based on defining what he's going to be taught. Is this going to be a horror story? Is he going to teach him something that leads him to some horrible fate? Or is this going to be more of a comedy, a rom com, where he's going to teach him, how to get a girl to unbutton that top button? Whatever. But, but that would be the case. Now, the cover design hints toward horror, but it's a little bit too vague. I don't really know what I'm looking at. I think it's a hand over an eyeball. Uh, that's okay. Uh, but yeah, I would use Teach a Man to Fish. That would be a better tagline than a title.
Okay.
And the idea of an old dude teaching this homeless guy some tricks could be fun. You'd have to define your genre and figure out what story you want to tell based on those bones.
Gotcha.
That
Yeah.
one's middle ground. It could work.
Too vague. Too vague. Not being vague
Yeah,
ain't good.
yeah, that's the biggest part of. Yeah, with that, it's just figuring out a what is it saying on the cover. There's too many possible answers,
Mm.
and even in the little written description, again, is it old man in the sea? Is he literally going to teach him how to put bait on a hook, or is it how to lure a victim into a given trap? You know, but with what we have, we don't know. It is too vague. You wouldn't
True.
know. A reader
And the
would be like,
reader
well, what kind
might
of
think
book
of
is
something
this? What is it?
better than what's in the book.
And that would be bad for the writer.
Real bad.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to be as clear as you can. You can be cryptic, you can write a mystery, you can have red herrings or whatever they call them. Have a ball. But the definition of your book should be very clear. So the reader knows what they're getting into, knows what to expect. And hopefully, like you said earlier, you shock them with some totally unexpected good thing. But you got to be careful not to shock them with some totally unexpected, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes that can go against you, you know. So, yeah, we had a pretty fun sci fi, I think would be worth going forward with. The second one, I didn't feel so good about. This one's kind of middle of the road. There's potential if it is defined.
Okay.
If it can't be defined, scrap it.
The final one is my dumbest one. Prepare yourself. This is piss. Veterinarian Doug Boyle has been pushed too far and has decided to take matters into his own hands in a way only he can. What would your advice be?
Well, I can't pick on the title as much as I would like to. There's a part of me that says, really? But then again, I saw a successful book. I think it's even on my TBR. Uh, and the title of the book was Haunted Vagina.
Oh,
If you can get away with that, you can get away with this. So, you know, so titles don't have as many rules as they used to have, perhaps. I don't know. So you might get away with that. And if so, there's an audience for it. I think you're looking at, if I had to just jump into a genre, I'd say erotic horror could be a fun place for a book called Piss. You know,
jeez.
you envision, a, what do they call it? The dominatrix pissing on some poor slob that
Ugh.
had no idea what he was getting into. Now, when you
We are
you got to wonder
we,
who.
we are going places. Oh, cool. Thank you for
But
playing my silly little game. I came up with these last night. I wish they were dumber, some of them, but that was fun. That was cool. I made those in a tired rush. But thank you for playing. Thanks for giving like good advice about, presentation is very important, especially making first impressions. And with a book, first impressions are like the entire thing almost.
yeah. Well, I've got to say, I never call myself an expert of anything. Perhaps all the stupid and the fun you were trying to provoke came from my responses. We'll have to ask the audience. Uh, Perhaps my responses were the stupid and the weird, but they were honest responses. They're truly what I believed for each one of them.
Good. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything else you'd like the audience to know? Anything you want to shout out?
Keep an eye out on Twitter, particularly. That's kind of my social media home. I love Twitter. It reminds me of the old AOL chat rooms. On Twitter, I can go in the DMs and have a very, very fascinating conversation with an author. And I do that as often as I can. I love it. I love to learn, and I learn so much from doing that. And also my show, Relax and Chat, when I get to have a guest on the show. Uh, One of my great joys, even today with the crazy hours I work, I always try to work in an hour or two a day for study. I love to learn. I love to get as much information and knowledge to make myself the best version of me that I can. Particularly as a publishing house owner, I don't want to be a crackpot. I want to be good at what I do, you know. And I think the best way to be good at what I do is to never stop learning, always
Mhm.
improving. So I'd recommend that to anyone that wants to open a press. Uh, be willing to work, be willing to learn. And I'll tell you what, it's good when you connect well with an author and things are going pretty well. It's bad when somehow you and the author just can't get on the same page. And when it is bad, cut it loose. You're not going to change it. Don't waste time. The ugly, in my opinion, is when they try to slip it past you, which is deceitful, and they sneak that AI onto your table and you waste an hour or two reading AI garbage. I don't have time to waste. I don't have an
No.
hour to waste. And I make it very public. Don't send me AI work. I don't want it. So when they try to sneak it past me, and surely some AI has squeaked its way past me. I'm not Superman. I'm not an expert. I just use mostly my gut instincts and my experience to try to weed it out. I don't believe one AI program can detect another. They're kinfolk. They're both on the same side. You know, the T-800 and the T-1000. Terminator. I think of that every time I think of AI. You
Mhm.
know. But yeah, that's kind of what I think along the lines of is I jibber jabber too much. I'm sorry for all the chatter, but
Oh, no problem.
I
Saffron
hope
has a
I
question here. How
okay.
often do you have to cut ties with authors, and what is it usually about?
It's really very rare. It's very rare. Uh, we have a very detailed contract. The author clearly understands what he's getting into when he signs. Before he signs, I invite him to ask me any question, and I'll give him an honest, straightforward answer. I advise the author to share that contract with anyone they want, with an attorney, with a friend, with whoever they trust, and bring back to me any question that comes up. I do everything I can to be completely open and legit with the author, that they know what they're getting into before they get into it. Um, I guess trying to think about it, out of 50, let's say out of 50 writers that I've worked with, I've had to cut ties with two. Um, and in both cases, it was because a lot of time was lost. Uh, I put in a lot of effort. Now, this goes back a little bit in time where I was literally the only editor. And when you put 100 hours worth of work into something, and all of that work becomes garbage because the writer suddenly decides that they've learned so much from you that now they know more than you do and they are the expert and they're not a team anymore, which collaboration, being a team, working together is key in my business. When the writer gets, for lack of any other term, too big for his britches, it's heartbreaking. Uh, and there is a clause in the contract that, if we're not working together, there's no point in moving forward. Bye.
Mhm.
You know, I've known bigger publishing houses than mine who believe the writer is always right. And if you believe that, then sometimes you're going to publish garbage, stuff that just ain't right. Nobody's always right. That's why I'm so strong on collaboration. I don't make your story the very best it can be. You don't either. But our combined efforts, working together, we will make your story the very best that it can be. And as long as the writer is willing to do that, we do great. I've had some fantastic experiences with a lot of writers. Uh, I've had two or three that, for whatever reason, it just didn't work. You know, if I make, let's say, I make 10 developmental suggestions, and you turn down 9 or 10, we're not editing your book anymore. We're not working together. We're not doing it. What do you want me around for? We're not doing anything. And if we come to that point and the writer actually firmly says, I don't want to change it. I want it to be this. Then, and the contract is clearly stated that if I feel you're going to take the quality of your book that could be a 4 or 5 star book, and you're going to dump it to 1 or 2 stars because you're being stubborn, fine, go be stubborn with some other press. I don't have time to waste with it. I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm being honest that sometimes us writers, remember, I am one of you, us writers can get a little too big for our britches. We need to realize you can't do it all by yourself. Even indie writers, some great indie writers out there, they have enough sense to have beta readers and editors and people to help them. Nobody does it all by themselves, you know? And yeah, that's heartbreaking, Saffron, when sometimes you really got to make the call. You've got to be able to do that. Um, I've had experiences elsewhere where a writer was absolutely determined to make a catastrophic mistake in the book, catastrophic from a developmental point of view. And in that company, the writer's always right. In my company, I would have cut it loose, you know, uh, because I don't think I'm doing myself or my writer any favors by producing a book that's subpar, you know. For one thing, all the financial investment and a shitload of time investment is on the publisher. All the money, everything it takes to create the book and to market the book, we shell out a lot of dough. But worse than that, we put in hundreds of hours. Just editing a novel alone is usually right around 100 hours of work for the editor. And to put in all that effort and have it all go to, you know, that's the ugly. That's the ugly. And you are going to deal with that if you open a press. You're going to have writers who may start out very friendly, very willing, very on the game. You're a team. But somehow, a little past halfway, if you're like me, you've taught them a lot. That's probably where I make my mistake. I teach as I edit. My writers, every writer I've worked with would tell you, "Hey, I learned something as I went through the process. Now I can edit myself way better." And you do want to self-edit your work before you go to a publisher or whatever. And that's super duper cool. I'm glad that I can be of help. But if you get to that point that suddenly you believe this is your debut novel, no one's ever heard of you, you have no experience, but 2/3 of the way into this debut novel, you now believe, why, I can outright Stephen King. Stephen King's a joke compared to me. When you go there, I'm heading for the door. Uh, Arrogance is something I won't deal with. Uh, if you're that great, okay, go be that great somewhere else. If you're going to run a publishing house, you got to know where to draw the line. I never try to act like a jerk or an asshole, but there are times when you must do what appears to be a jerk and an asshole if you're going to run a business, you know?
Yeah.
And then one other thing I'll add real quick is if you're going to run a publishing house, and even this applies to a writer, something a lot of writers miss, you have got to be on top of your financial matters. If you start out wealthy, hooray, you got a nice head start. If you start out poor, you're going to work a lot of hours. But either way, keep track of your expenses. Uh, Super important. There's a lot of indie writers out there who, go a little crazy with five, six, seven, $800, $1,000 covers, editing $2,000, $3,000 worth of editing, merch. This is a fun one. $2,000, $3,000 worth of fancy merchandise. And then they're going to sell their book for $12.99, and they're going to make a cut of about $2 or $3. How many decades is it going to take for that book to break even, if it breaks even at all? You've really got to watch your expenses. That's why on my show I use a free version of Zoom. It don't cost me a dime. And having an accounting background, I track every expense. But I highly recommend that to writers, and especially to someone thinking of opening a press. I don't care if you start out with $100,000. It's well known that people can win the lottery and win $1 million and be broke in a year. You know, Manage your expenses. Very, very important.
Yep. Well,
I hope I haven't been boring as hell in this show. I didn't want to
oh
be.
no, no, this has been a very informative show. Wise words. by Mr. Rod Gilley. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure to have you. Everyone, go to rdgpress.com.
RDG Books Press.
rdgbookspress.com. Check out
Yeah,
Rod Gilley's site. You're accepting submissions all the time?
pretty often. I've got an open submission right now for sexy horror stories, and there'll be more to come. I do a couple of submissions a year. I'm short on manpower. I'm hiring anybody I can find that can do the job or willing to learn. I'm doing hiring for the next couple of years. There's just off the top of my head, there's 50 positions that need to be filled in a publishing house. Literally need to be filled, and it's like doing all of them. So yeah, I'm staying busy, but I love what I do though. And when it works so well. The Curse of Six was such an absolute joy working with such a skilled writer, creating such a fantastic story. You know, he wrote that amazing story. I just helped him polish it up, but it turned out beautiful. Uh, Those Who Breathe the Water, another excellent example of a very skilled writer who was willing to collaborate, work together. We were a team from start to finish. There's never a boss. I'm not your boss. You're not my boss. We are partners in this. Let's both work together with the single goal of making it the very best that it can be. And N.B. Clark was such a perfect collaborator, and her story is outstanding. As soon as a handful of people read that, I look for that story to really take off because it's something special, because it's got its good, scary horror element. And at the same time, it'll grab your heart, rip it out, and stomp it. I mean, it's a very emotional story. It's freaking amazing. And if you get a chance, pick it up, check it out. It's on pre-order now. Uh, Those Who Breathe the Water. Yeah, there's my, what do you call that? A plug? There's my plug.
Yeah, the plug. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I'll see you guys next time.